Today we got Raymond House and Gerald Howard in the chairs with your man Chris Gogol sitting in between them, just spinning it back and forth between the both of them. We're just gonna sit down and kind of recap the recruiting, preview a little bit of spring practice, some of the coaching changes, and then we're actually going to flip it over to House and talk to him a little bit about his combine experience. Just specific drills, what the whole process was about. I know we're deep into the combine's probably just finishing up now, and we'll just get that wrapped up and kind of bounce some questions off House about his experience there, and go from there. But we'll start off with recruiting. Obviously, we've had about a month to let that marinate, and it's been about a month, yeah. Because first Thursday or something, first Wednesday in February, I believe.
Yep. Usually that first week in February.
Yeah. So a bunch of high school athletes, fulfilling their dreams, able to go to the college of their choice. Obviously a big decision. I know that these guys have both lived through that. I myself, as a swimmer, have too. Not as much on the landscape that these guys have, but it was still a good time. I enjoyed my time at Wisconsin as well as Mankato. But recruiting-wise, I think a few of the big pointers that this class really touched on, I would say wide receiver. We obviously had, Drew Morgan and Cody Hollister, as well as a couple other guys that have moved on. We end up picking up Brandon Martin, Malik Barkley, I believe, is a running back, but seems like he might be a little bit of a swap guy, whether it be a slot or, was it Jordan Jones was kind of that guy, kind of the tweener where they just trying to get him the ball with some wheels. Yeah. Jonathan Nance, two junior college guys in Brandon Martin, who had all sorts of offers from LSU, Alabama. I believe he was committed to LSU, ended up going to the junior college route because of grades, but I would say he's probably the biggest catch for Bielema this recruiting class.
So I like the idea of having the kind of the way he's evened it out. He's got 2 or 3 guys that are big body, kind of fit that mold of going out there and giving you a deep threat. And he's got a couple of other guys that can have some speed and probably have some versatility to you as well. When you think about what Enos has done from the offensive perspective, making use of offensive players in general, whether that's the run or the pass, regardless of whether they play running back or receiver, you've got to be able to, for what he wants to do, have some guys that can do multiple things for him. So along with having those guys that can stretch the field for you as well. So I kind of like the mix. And they picked up a couple of guys from the junior college ranks that you hope will add some immediate
ready to roll.
Yeah, some immediate impact as far as offense is concerned, and then a few younger guys that that you can mold and fit into your system and have time to grow and build on and kind of have that bench strength that you need, right? You still, because I think you'll still look to a guy like Jared Cornelius to kind of come out and lead that group going into the season. And then some of the other recruiting, some of the other names that some of your red shirts from this past year, some of the other guys that hadn't had the opportunity, you look for some of them to try to contribute as well, because what you really want to do is create an atmosphere of competition, solid competition, hopefully.
Right.
So, who's the game breaker?
Well, I didn't even bring up.
Or who was labeled as that?
Right. I would say it had to be Brandon Martin.
At wide receiver?
Yeah.
Do we?
Anywhere.
Out of the whole class.
Out of the whole class?
And usually you've got that recruit, right, that you say, we may not even need this, but we got to get him.
Offensively.
Offensively.
So we're talking about offensively.
Offensively, right now.
Offensively, any position. And who you say who?
I watched a lot of Malik Barkley, and I think he went way under the radar behind, the Brandon Martins, the Jonathan Nances. I just liked his tape. He did a little bit out of the slot. He played a little bit of running back. And I tell you what, when he got in the open field, he was gone. There was no touching him. I like the running back, Chase Hayden, too. Overall, though, I really like Malik Barkley. I don't know how long he may get into the fold, But I mean, he would be somebody that I'd like to see. I think a lot of these wide receivers have a chance to play right away, just simply because of the depth chart. I know we mentioned Jared, but I mean, other than that, who would we say would be a good wide receiver coming back? So I almost got to say we got to get the ball out to some talent, some slot guys. I think Jared's going to handle most of the slot anyway, but I think Malik will get a good opportunity to learn from Jared and maybe just kind of work him in slowly.
So if we defined game breaker
or game changer
as somebody that within a particular game can change it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Can instantly. I gotta think that we gotta go to Dallas, G. And look at a guy like Brandon Martin. Having some, coming in, he's gonna be a little bit more developed.
Yep.
Coming out of the junior college ranks, and then all of the fanfare coming out of Dallas that he had coming in, bigger body, sub 4.4 40 guy.
All the offers.
You know what type of talent, what type of potential. I think he, looking at the lack of big play, look at the lack of the long receiving plays we had, from last year to now you have a guy that you can go throw it up top to and has the speed to separate himself. I like the idea of him being that guy that can game breaker. If he calls a game breaker, will he lead the team in receptions or yards? I don't know. But does he have that game breaker, that big play ability? I think you got to look at a big body with speed on the outside. So that'd be my pick right there as far as the game breaker to your question, G.
Okay. How about defense?
Defensive wise, obviously that's a huge need, especially with the defensive changes. My personal opinion, I'd like to see a few more linebackers, especially if we're switching to a 3-4 this year. I believe I only saw like one, Josh Paul. Oh, Kyrie Fisher. But I mean, Kyrie Fisher's probably got a ready-made body at 6'2", 227. Josh Paul at 6'2", 215. I would say Josh Paul's probably got a few years under his belt, the redshirt year to kind of get his weight up or so, and especially if you're going to a 3-4. And tell me if I'm wrong, you almost want to beef your middle linebacker.
Yeah. So it depends, and that's not really a fair way to really say, hey, this is how I want to evaluate it. But
right,
it does depend because it's still kind of a question mark on what type of a 3-4 it is that Paul Rhodes wants to run, right?
Exactly.
Is he gonna be a guy? Is he gonna be your traditional 3-4 guy where you have these big, massive space eaters that on the defensive line that two gap and allow your linebackers to kind of just slide off and go flow with the play and be able to make plays? Or is he going to be a gap control type of 3-4?
Okay.
Where essentially it does the same things as a gap control 4-3, but it allows you for a few more quicker bodies on the field and gives you a few more options as far as blitzes are concerned, and you can do different things in coverage because you have four guys in the box with a handoff.
Okay.
So I think it really depends. I think that's kind of the question mark. Those are things that will probably be answered.
What are we built to do today or this season compared to he might want to go to the Mud Eaters 3 years from now, but can we do that today?
Now, I don't think you have all of the pieces that you need, because you want some guys that are 290 plus
across the three
that have their hand on the ground, and guys that really are just you need some big, nasty, aggressive guys that are disruptive.
Mm-hmm. Right? Can you consistently recruit that at the University of Arkansas?
Well, so I think we're getting there. I think you have to. I think people. It's kind of a wait and see thing when you go through a change like that, and people want to see what it is what directions you're trying to go in, and can you be successful with it, and can I be a guy that can come in, because that's what the high school. Because we kind of talk about that before we started going. The access of information to players, to recruits, is so much. Is at its highest level than it ever has been before. And can you give them what they're asking for? Can you show some things? Do I have the opportunity to be successful early and often And are you gonna because really are you going to be doing the things that that are going to make us successful even without us? So
right. And I don't want this to get lost on people. The transition from a 4-3 to a 3-4, it's going to take some time. There's going to be some growing pains in the first few games. I don't know if you guys would disagree with that, but
totally.
like you said, we're going to have a few less guys with 280 that we're going to need. I mean, the first few I can think of, Bijan and Austin Capps are probably a good start for your middle. But I would say defensive end's kind of up in the air, but that's something that we can talk about as spring goes on and we get an opportunity to see, kind of the plan in place of what they want to do, what they want to accomplish. So that I think there are going to be some growing pains. It's going to be interesting to see how that transition works. It's going to be a process. One thing I'll say is, just keep your patience, Arkansas fans. I know that may be hard to do, but
not a chance.
Yeah. Hey, you got to at least say it and get it out there first.
Did you see the last two games last season?
Yeah, I know.
Well, here's the thing.
No.
Overall recruiting, the class itself as a whole, somewhere around the lower part of the top 25 is where it's rated overall.
Right.
I think it's solid for when you think about what we've done over the past few years, right? Coming from that dark time post John L. Smith and the transition to putting some back-to-back trips to bowl games and consistently, having more airtime on TV. Those are all, I think that's a solid level. But now, what is it that you're doing to get those upper echelon athletes that fit in with what you're doing? So I think he's moving in the right direction. Maybe not as quickly as people want him to, but this is a year that he definitely is going to have to show some marked improvement, and I think hopefully he's bringing in the type of recruits needed to do that. So.
Right. I think he did a good job of kind of getting some depth. I don't know if it's gonna fill in right away or anything like that, but we definitely needed some depth behind some of the starters. I think I would have to agree. I think the overall recruiting class was pretty successful. I think they touched on most of the needs that they needed. At the same time, I think they filled some of the depth. The transition is going to be the interesting part defensive wise, but I think we know what's about ready to come there. But we'll have some more insight into that when spring practice rolls around, when we get a little bit of a sneak preview of what's going on.
What we got next?
The next piece we got, why don't we talk a little bit about the new hires and John Scott Jr. and Chad Walker.
Yeah. So kind of an interesting situation. So the defensive coordinator for the Jets. Well, so first off, the Jets run a 3-4, so it makes sense that you have somebody that has that experience and is able to apply that here to some of the guys that may not be familiar with it and understands how to install that. Position-wise, but the defensive coordinator at the Jets currently, is Casey Rogers, who actually was my last defensive line coach here at the University of Arkansas. So kind of an interesting roundabout 6 degrees of separation closing there as far as how people are connected with the university. But so you like the idea of having somebody from that level and can speak to what it takes to be at that level and how that impacts, high schoolers coming into college and current college players, because it's one of those things where they're already going to have kind of that ultimate respect for him because of his pedigree and because of his resume, and he brings that experience that guys are looking for. So so it makes sense to have somebody with that experience and having that experience at the professional level to be able to bring him in.
Right. I'll touch briefly just kind of on his playing background and where he's been. So he played in Western Carolina. He's 41 years old, so a fairly young guy, maybe somebody who can kind of connect recruiting-wise, so that should be interesting. So he started at West Carolina, ended up playing for the Greensboro Prowlers, AF2. I'm not entirely sure what that is. Maybe House could speak to that.
Yeah.
Arena Football League. Okay. And then played the Montreal Alouettes, and then after that he's kind of bounced around from Louisiana Lafayette, from GA to Norfolk State, defensive line coach. Was at Texas Tech for a few years as defensive line coach, and then the Jets. So he has his experience. So even though he's a young guy, he's kind of got his feet wet. I think this is a good opportunity now for him to kind of create his own path as a coach. So it should be pretty interesting. Like I said, defensive line coach. And then we have Chad Walker. So Chad Walker, I'm not as I don't know as much about him as I do John Scott Jr. I've done a lot more research on John Scott Jr. Chad Walker actually came out on a Friday. And I was home from work, and I didn't even know he got hired until the preceding week. So, but he's kind of bounced around. His coaching career started as a grad assistant at UL Monroe, and then at West Virginia. His thing is also a 3-4, and it looks like he's going to be tabbed for the outside linebackers. So it sounds like your defensive coaching staff is going to be obviously Paul Rhodes pulling the strings. And then you're going to have John Scott Jr. defensive line, Chad Walker outside linebackers, Vernon Hardgraves inside linebackers, and then Paul Rhodes will retain the DBs. So what is your overall thoughts on the hires, I guess?
Yeah, so overall, when just looking at experience, just looking at kind of the pedigree of the coaches, you can't scoff at it too much from a position perspective. They all have seemed to been solid where they've been.
Mm-hmm.
But now comes the real question of how is it that they're gelling and they're meshing as a defensive unit from a coaching perspective, and preparing to lead these guys. And can you, because really, let's face it, we're looking for some strike changes from a defensive perspective.
Mm-hmm.
You look at averaging, giving up 400 yards a game for 2 years. People want, at least some sort of resemblance of something to improve on that, right? And it just, when it was bad, it was really bad, right? So it's just that's what it was. So can you get to the point? Because we're all kind of waiting and seeing exactly how these players are going to accept and buy into what it is that they're saying. Are they making the game plan simple enough for these guys to be able to pick up and go? Are they coaching to the level where they're fundamentally sound and can use their athleticism to go read and react and be faster, right? Because that's the one thing. The game is constantly getting bigger. It's constantly getting faster,
mm-hmm.
right? So how do you combat that? How do you keep up with that, right? And you would hope that you're looking at an offense that's going to eat up some clock and give you the ability to be fresh. Hopefully that's the case.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can get out there and really just be all out. I know exactly where it is I'm doing. I can be aggressive. I can be confident in what I'm doing. And so is this the coaching staff to do that? It's kind of let's wait.
It'll
to
take
see.
time.
It'll take time to see how it is. But you said it earlier, right? We're not ever patient on the outside looking in. We want complete success right now. So.
All right. Well, we'll just take a brief little break here, and we'll be back here shortly.
Just 2 periods. Yeah. All right, we on?
All right, welcome back. Still sitting here with Raymond House and Gerald Howard, and I just wanted to quickly, returning from the break, I just wanted to quickly have them speak to, what the differences is with, coaching changes. Obviously, philosophy changes, your day-to-day routines change, as well as the playbook changes. But I just kind of wanted to hear, Raymond's went through a few changes. Gerald as well has gone through a few changes here at the University of Arkansas. Just coaching changes. What changes? And I'll throw it over to you.
Yeah. So in my time at college, I had four different position coaches, and I also had 4 different defensive coordinators. Right.
Ooh.
So that makes so your position coach change is gonna be more of your approach, how expectations are set. I had some guys that were super laid back. I had some guys that were, I'm going to cuss you out and throw stuff all the time to feel like I'm going to get more out of you, right? And it's just a matter of every time there's a change, there's an adjustment to the cadence on how you interact, right? And that's something that for some guys, you have to be, be ready for change and understand how to take it in order to be successful within it, right? Sometimes it takes a lot. Some guys, especially when you're talking about, 18, 19, 20-year-old guys,
right.
It's not always change is not always the biggest thing. And then at the coordinator level, I think that's more of a technical change. Like, what is it specifically within the when plays are called? What am I doing? And how do I fit in? And what are we trying to do as a whole? To be successful. So it definitely has its challenges because you have different coaches that perceive you in a different way, have a different perspective on who you are and what your skills are, what you do well, because they're trying to see what you do well within what I'm trying to do as a coach.
Right.
So there are some challenges there, and it takes that perfect mix of a coach approaching a player the right way and being able to get the buy-in from them individually, and then that player being bought into what they're trying to do. And it's actually a good decision. Like, these skill sets that these players have make sense with what they're trying to do from a play calling perspective. So, I mean, there's a lot of things. I know, G, you probably kind of had some of the same experiences too. So
I had three different position coaches. Technically, coordinator-wise, Houston called the plays, right? But you had Joe Ferguson and David Lee. So, but when you're talking about the three guys I had at the position level, they were three totally different guys. And then one of those guys actually recruited me. So then you lose him. That's my first coach. And then you get your second coach who knows no one on the roster. He's got to get to know everybody. So if you're the guy that's playing, you probably want to keep the position coach. If you're the guy that's next in line, this is a restart, a refresh for you. You're thinking great opportunity. He knows nobody. I can come in, I can sell him fresh. So if I made a mistake with the other coach, I'm out of the doghouse. It's fresh, right?
All right.
Then my third coach, he had already been on the staff. So speaking to what House said, he moved from another position and got slotted as a receivers coach, right? Mm-hmm. So he probably already had perceptions of us, but now he's just trying to see if it fits. How does it work? How do we move forward? And also with these coaches, everybody has an agenda, right? And they're trying to work their agenda in with what's being set before them by the coordinator and the head coach, and then you're trying to fit into this piece in this puzzle.
Yeah, I mean, coaching changes are always going to be, obviously result driven. It's not going to be so much, how well do all the players take it? Is this a well received hire? It's not about that. Let's be honest. It's all about the results. These coaching changes are obviously going to be completely reviewed and rehashed for the next 10 months or so until the season's over, and then we'll be able to review them completely. But I do like the hires. I think it's interesting the routes that he went, going to the pro level with John Scott Jr. and Chad Walker. I think it gives them an opportunity to, bring an influx of kind of some new ideas, especially, like I said, switching from a 4-3 to a 3-4 is a big change. I would like to see the big plays cut down, but at the end of the day, it should be pretty interesting how this will roll out here in the future. So now let's kind of roll on to the combine. We obviously had a few Razorbacks that competed. Dan Skipper, Keon Hatcher, Drew Morgan, among others. Dietrich Wise, Ledbetter.
I definitely have something to say on this topic.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, let's
get it.
Let's yeah. So on that note, what do you got?
We've got the freaks come out at night.
Okay.
And how they build us up and how we're changing bodies by Herb.
Okay.
But then we don't show up well
in the
at
testing.
Is that connected, or is those two totally different things?
Man,
Or he's
tough.
not responsible? Because I know some guys go train outside and some
Mm-hmm.
guys use in-house. I guess Razorback staff.
or whatever they use in college, right? So,
Why is it not transferred?
well, but here's the thing. Let make no mistake. The combine, right, much more glorified than it has been before, but it is an absolute pressure cooker.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Right.
pressure cooker. You up early, you're staying out late. It is a whole lot of stop and go, hurry up and wait. Nothing about the combine is really putting you in a position to truly be successful per se, right? You've got millions of distractions. You've got a bunch of guys that all kind of have these different things that they have going on. Right? You have to go cold and very little time to warm up, but you know that
think
going
the
in. That's
actual pro day is a better.
no, absolutely.
That's where
you always see a chance to increase in performance because you have the comfort, you have all of the access to things that make you can warm up how you want to. There's no rush. You understand what time the timing, but you have all the things you need to prepare for those specific things that you need to do, right? So it's not just as simple as and then. All of that being said, that's the physical, even from a mental perspective, knowing that every single team is represented there. You've got folks that they're gonna pressure you from a questioning perspective, interviews. It's a mental and physical drain to go through because all the things that you do basically in 2 days, right?
So
and you're gone.
So House is speaking specifically on his experience. He went to the combine in what year?
2003.
2003. So he's kind of sharing a little bit about what the process was, what went on, the certain questions, hot and cold, all those things. So testing wise, back to what Gerald was saying, we talk about, the bodies by Herb, but then they didn't specifically test that well. Mm-hmm. Can you talk about specifically, so you were saying how difficult it can be kind of moving from drill to drill to drill? Are you ready for them? Are you warmed up? Have you gone through all? Is it a whole 1 day thing, 2 day thing? Like, are you doing all these drills in 1 day? The bench press, the broad jump, all that stuff, and all in 1 day? Or can you just kind of talk about what the schedule is like?
So you're gonna. It varies, right? So they have a preset. I'm not sure how it's changed now though, but you'll have a testing day where you essentially do everything throughout that day at different times, and you're up at 6 in the morning, your breakfast, and then you're going through, and it's just you might have, depending on how they want to rotate the schedule with the particular positions, but you'll have certain groups that'll run while others are lifting, and then vice versa, doing your jumps as opposed to your athletic, your shuttles and seven, your 7 cone and your L drill, things like that. But what
was your best drill?
My best drill at the combine?
Yeah,
at the combine, probably broad jump. I think I did a 10-2 broad jump.
that's that basketball.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, so that was probably my best, and then I think I ran like a 4-1, 20-yard shuttle. So but again, it's just when I came to the pro day, I improved on every number because you are more relaxed. It's less pressure. You understand there are certain teams that are going to be there to see you do certain things.
Do you get a little home cooking too on the times and all that?
Not really, because the scouts have their own clocks, right? So there's not
right.
So they see you with whatever it is that you've got, right? So
okay.
So yeah, but from an electronic time perspective, yeah.
So I've always wondered that why the pro days have always tested out better than the combine. So I just had to rouse you.
A lot of pro day times too are hand timed as well. And you'll have there'll be some electronic ones too, that you'll see. But yeah, it's a much more comfortable, laid back, situation for the players individually, right? And you're able to do things from a warm up and preparation perspective so you can perform at your highest. The combine is we need to go here and we need to get these, 400 or 500 guys in and out as quickly as we possibly can in this set period of time. And so it is not about making you to be successful on what you're doing. It's about letting you do it as quick as you possibly can.
Right.
And getting you through it.
So what is the time like between the combine to draft day?
Oh, man. So
you get the pro day in between there.
Pro
too.
day?
Yeah, yes. So really it becomes that. So you usually there's a couple of weeks roughly, depending on when your pro day is. There's usually a couple weeks in between combine and pro day, right? And so combine being in February, and then usually a lot of those pro days start cranking up in March to prep for the draft in April. Right? And so you get in there, and so for one, it's just sometimes you'll pick and choose some of the things you need to improve on as far as combine to pro day, right? You may have to pick certain drills that you want to try to get better on. Like I did everything again because I didn't perform well at the combine. Because ran a 5 flat at the combine, ran a 4.85 at the pro day, right? I only did 20 reps at the combine, 225. I come to the pro day, I do 25. Right? So
everything.
So and it's just everything just kind of worked. I mean, jumps were probably about the same, but and shuttle, all this stuff. But
I got a question for you. On the pro day, were there any old heads out there with you?
Well, I mean,
that were like the years before.
Oh yeah,
most people don't know that.
Oh yeah,
that those other guys, they come back that may have been cut or.
Oh yeah. And here's the thing, I think it's a great idea for them. It's a wonderful opportunity for them to get in front of particular scouts.
The current pros that come back, is that what?
So what'll happen is that you may have guys that graduated the year before,
okay,
or however many years before,
that
are still that are unsigned free agents of some sort, whether they've played before, they haven't played before.
Okay.
They'll also have the opportunity to come and perform in front of the scouts, right? Okay. And be able to show and perform, see what things they do. But yes, I think we had a couple, but it wasn't a huge thing. But from that perspective, if you still want to play, why not? I mean, I think it's a great, especially if you have a good.
Got to use every opportunity.
This is a great opportunity,
right?
And I would encourage it. So, again, it's automatically recognized who those guys are.
Right.
So it doesn't take anything. It doesn't add or take anything away. So.
Well, I would say that pretty much wraps it up for the day. We just kind of wanted to get an opportunity to recap recruiting, talk a little bit about the coaching changes, as well as some of the combine results. I know we didn't talk too much about the specific results on each of the players. I think most of them kind of tested in the mid range. It looks like Drew ran like about a 4.7.
Yeah, I expect every single one of those guys to do every single thing again.
Here at the
pro day. What does he have to run on pro day?
Drew?
Drew Morgan?
Yeah, that 4.7 hurt.
If in my opinion, I think he's fine. I think he's fine. I think if he runs a 4.6, I think he's getting drafted anyway because I think there's a spot in the NFL for guys like him.
I think there's a spot in the NFL for him. I don't know if a team likes it enough of that spot to
maybe undrafted.
Because you think about it, you see the production. Mm-hmm. But still, he wasn't a 1,000-yard receiver type of guy, and he didn't wow you from an athletic perspective. But he's consistent. He's sure-handed. That's why I think he comes in.
Can he consistently get open at the next level?
No. I don't perceive him as a.
What does Colt Beasley run?
He's got to be. Like Drew to me is the prototypical Wes Welker. I'm gonna stick my nose into the middle of the field.
What do they run the 40 in?
They got to be 4.5, 4.6s.
Correct. Yeah, correct.
That's a big difference.
Yeah.
So I think, but again, I expect them to all perform better at the pro day, and create opportunities from them. I think for Drew Morgan, the guy that probably is a late rounder free agent type. Probably the same thing with Keon Hatcher even with being a bigger body.
What did he run?
He ran a 4.65. And
So if you're training both of those guys, what's your money number?
Oh
like
man,
if you're his trainer, you're training. Both.
I would say Keon's got to be 4.5, and Drew's got to be
money.
mid
We're
4.6s.
talking free agent money, draft money.
oh well, okay. So faster is
Or
always
rounds.
Obviously,
better. Faster is always better.
Right, we know that.
With Drew Morgan, given his height, I mean,
what 6 foot?
yeah,
maybe.
He's not an overwhelmingly. He's not a.
He's not going to
dominant
wow you in his measurables whatsoever.
But Keon has the potential to be a bigger body receiver.
With being 6'2", 6'3".
Longer arms. And
Yeah.
if he can show the speed to go with it, then he may have a chance to be drafted in the later rounds. Drew Morgan would have to be in that 4 or 5 range and really show some things in order to put himself in a draftable. I mean, because you figure more than likely
Skipper's getting drafted.
Dietrich Wise, Jeremiah Ledbetter have done enough on the field and show enough from an athleticism perspective to really probably give themselves a shot to be drafted.
I really wish Wise would have been healthy for one full season.
Oh,
I would have liked to see it for one full, because I mean his sophomore year when he was in that package where they were just basically in like that amoeba defense where everybody's standing up and he was lined up over the nose or over the center. I thought I told Gerald numerous times, I was like, man, if Wise could just stay healthy, he could be a game changer. And I still think NFL-wise, if he's able to stay healthy, I think he could be a nasty defensive end, stand-up defensive end.
I think he's probably a late day 2 to early day 3 draft pick, so somewhere it's between the 3rd and the 5th rounds.
Yep,
more than likely. It's kind of tough because he did have a drop in production from last year to this year. Those people are taking consideration. A lot of defensive ends in this draft too. Right. They're doing a lot of different things, but I think him showing the production that he did have from his junior year at the SEC level and him being able to play multiple positions, it's possible that his sweet spot, given that he may not be a blazer on the outside, probably his sweet spot
playing D-tackle.
Can he play defensive tackle? Can he be a 3-4 defensive end and be disruptive? When you think about places like Pittsburgh, like Houston, like New England, that Razorback defenders, obviously. Right. There are some places within the league that he's going to have some opportunity. I think that's going to be his sweet spot. Is can he be that? Can he play the 3 technique? Can he play that 3-4-5 technique consistently? Because in shoulder strength and quickness, not necessarily the foot speed to contain, but to show that to show that aggression with his hands and that quickness in short range spaces to be able to be disruptive and effective in that 3 technique, 4 technique, 5 technique space. So,
I mean, we didn't really talk too much about Dan Skipper or Ledbetter or even Sprinkle. I think Sprinkle and Skipper both are going to get drafted. Yeah. I'm not entirely sure where. I think Skipper's just got the body. I think he could even still put on a few more pounds. I'd like to see him almost slide into guard, but being 6'10", I don't know if you can do that. He might need to be a right tackle, left tackle is the rest of his career. But and then Sprink, I know he got in trouble with the whole Belk Bowl thing, but I still think his production will speak for itself. And one act does not put you down and doesn't get you undrafted a lot of times. I mean, look at Joe Mixon, for Christ's sake. Yeah. So. Anyway, we'll wrap this up. I appreciate Ray and Gerald sitting down with us and having a little chat about the potential, about some coaching changes, as well as the outlook on spring. I'm sure we're all kind of chopping at the bit to see what's in store with these coaches.